Hello and thanks for joining us for today's video. Before we start, we will let you know if you have any cases for us to cover on criminally listed, paranormally listed, and into the killing, please visit our website, criminallylisted.com. Also, if you haven't checked out Paranormally Listed lately, you should because we've recently released some interesting videos including small town monsters, true urban legends, and strange coincidences that save people's lives. There's a link to the channel in the description box below, and we'll have another link at the end of this video. As for today's video, we'll be talking about vigilantes. Of course, as understandable as their actions are, we do not support these actions because there are other ways to handle these problems. If you or someone you know is in a similar situation, please seek out help that's available. As we mentioned, while we do not condone the actions of the people in this video, we do understand them, because who wouldn't want to protect their family? I know I do, and that's why I rely on NordVPN to protect myself and my family when we're online. NordVPN has so many amazing features that I won't be able to tell you about them all right now. But you should know that's the world's fastest VPN, and you can protect yourself with a single click. I actually love an add-on that can be purchased in a bundle with NordVPN called NordPass because it has special meaning to me. My mother used to keep all her passwords on a document called Passwords, so we all panicked when her tablet went missing at the airport. There was a desperate rush to change her passwords on all the websites and apps she used, but it was impossible to remember all the websites she had passwords for. After that, I introduced her to NordPass, which is a safe and easy way to store all your passwords. NordPass is a separate app, but you can get it as part of a bundle with NordVPN. Trust me, it's completely worth adding on. But as I mentioned before, NordVPN has a bunch of great security features that will keep you and your family safe while you're online. This includes threat protection. It protects you from nasty things like malware, trackers, and ads. They also have a data breach scanner in case something does go wrong. They'll send you an alert in case there's a data breach that exposes your sensitive information. Something else that was useful when it came to my mother's private information is their dark web monitor. It lets you know if someone has leaked your credentials on the dark web. And NordVPN is more than just a great protection and security tool. I love it because it allows me to access video content from all over the world and not just what's available here in Canada. I just changed my location to where the video is available with a click of a button. Right now, NordVPN has an amazing exclusive deal for criminally listed viewers. You get this deal by visiting nordvpn.com/criminallylisted. You also have nothing to lose because they have a 30-day money-back guarantee. So what's stopping you? Why don't you want to protect yourself and your family online? A NordVPN subscription is a small price to pay to protect yourself from potential online disasters that can wreak havoc on your finances, credit score, your identity, and so much more. So please keep yourself safe online and help support Criminally Listed in the process by going to nordvpn.com/criminallylisted. Number 3. Unnamed Father, Delhi, India. Nagar is a slum in northeast Delhi, India. It was home to an unnamed family of 8. The 36-year-old father of 6 made his living by selling hamburgers from a cart. They also rented out a room in their home to a 45-year-old man who also wasn't identified. The tenant was the father himself. He had 2 daughters who were married. The father is 6 and his wife received a shock in October 2014. Their 13-year-old daughter started getting sick in the morning, so they took her to the doctor. It turned out she was pregnant. They talked to the girl and asked how this could have happened. She said that 2 months earlier she was at home alone. The 45-year-old tenant pulled her into his room. He bound her and raped her. She kept it a secret because the tenant had threatened to kill her father if she said anything. After learning about the rape, her 36-year-old father was obviously angry. He told the tenant to move out and get out of their lives, but he refused to leave and even taunted the father. This further outraged the father. On October 31st, 2014, the father told his wife and children to sleep in a bedroom on the main floor. He wanted to talk to the tenant on the second floor. The father cooked the tenant dinner. The tenant didn't know they put drugs in the food. When they were done, the father bound the tenant. He then put a towel around his neck and started strangling him. He thought he killed him, but then he discovered he was still breathing. So he heated up a steel spatula on a burner. He then pressed the spatula against the man's genitals. He screamed, so the father stuffed the towel into the man's mouth. He pressed the spatula to the man's genitals again, and his body twitched. When he pressed the spatula to his genitals a third time, the man stopped moving. He realized he had killed the 45-year-old man who had raped his daughter. The father knew that he could get rid of the body and cover up the murder, or he could flee the area, but he decided to turn himself in to the police. Rape is a big problem in India, and it often goes unpunished. If someone is charged, it usually takes 6 or 7 years for a case to go to trial. After the father turned himself in, his 32-year-old wife visited him in jail. She told the media, "I only had a chance to see him briefly, and he told me he wanted to warn potential rapists that they could never escape justice." When the father was interviewed and asked if he regretted what he did, he said, "I started thinking, what is the point of living this life if I can't get justice for my daughter? I do not regret that I took revenge of what he did." No record of what happened to the father after he was arrested could be found. However, if he was convicted of murder, he could have been sentenced to up to 25 years in prison. Number 2. Unnamed father, Shiner, Texas, United States. Shiner, Texas is a small town between San Antonio and Houston. Its motto is, "The cleanest little city in Texas." In 2012, it had a population of just over 2,000. On the afternoon of June 12, 2012, 43-year-old Jesus Mora Flores was working on a family farm just outside the city. He had been hired to help with the horses. Just after 3:43 p.m., a 23-year-old man who lived and worked on the farm was barbecuing and caring for a horse. His 5-year-old daughter had gone to feed the chickens by herself. Then another worker on the farm rushed to the man and told him that he saw Flores forcefully carrying his 5-year-old daughter to an isolated area. The father ran to the area and heard his daughter screaming. The father, who was never publicly identified to protect his daughter's identity, discovered Flores on top of his daughter. He pulled him off and beat Flores in the head and neck with his fists. When the ambulance finally arrived, Flores was unconscious and his pants and underwear were pulled down. 47-year-old Jesus Mora Flores was pronounced dead at the scene. The 5-year-old girl was taken to the hospital. The doctor concluded that she had been sexually assaulted. The police investigated the death as a homicide, but they didn't arrest the 23-year-old father. Flores had been an acquaintance of the father. He did not have a criminal record. The father was described as polite and easygoing. After the death of Flores, he was remorseful and distraught. The police ultimately decided not to press charges because, according to state law, the father was allowed to use deadly force to protect his daughter. In June 2012, the district attorney presented the case to the grand jury. The grand jury could choose to indict the 23-year-old man and he would go to trial for whatever crime they indicted him for. A recording of the 911 call was played and several people at the farm testified. This included the person who saw Flores carrying the girl to the secluded area. The grand jury came to the same conclusion as the police. The father had the right to use deadly force. So he did not face any charges for beating Jesus Mora Flores to death. Number 1. Sarah Sands. Sarah Sands and her 5 children moved into an apartment in Silvertown, a district in London, England. Not long after moving there, she befriended 77-year-old Michael Pleasted. Pleasted was known as a local character around the district. He ran a brick and brack stall at a local market. Sands thought he was a nice man and should bring him meals. In the autumn of 2014, Pleasted hired Sarah's 12-year-old son Bradley to work at the shop. Her 11-year-old twin sons, Reese and Alfie, also started hanging around with Pleasted. But after a few weeks, Bradley lost interest in the job and stopped working. Then, November 2014, Sarah's twin 11-year-old sons revealed the police had sexually abused them. A week later, her 12-year-old son Bradley also said he had been abused by police. Sarah went to the police, and 77-year-old Michael Policeton was arrested. Policeton was given bail, and he was allowed to return home, which was a set of flats that neighbored Sarah's building. Sarah was outraged that the man who abused her sons was allowed to return to live in the same neighborhood as his victims. She decided to move her and her children to her mother's home. She learned that Policeton was going to plead not guilty, so her sons would have to testify and relive the abuse in court. Her sons already had nightmares about the abuse, and she didn't want them to go through a trial. On the night, November 28, 2014, Sarah drank 2 bottles of wine and a bottle of brandy. She then went over to Policeton's apartment. Sarah said when he opened the door, he smirked at her when he saw her. She told him to plead guilty to spare her sons the trauma of testifying in court. Policeton apparently said that the boys were lying and they had ruined his life. Sarah then pulled out a 12-inch kitchen knife from under her clothes. She said there was a struggle, and she ended up stabbing the 77-year-old man 8 times. Hours later, 32-year-old Sarah Sands turned herself into the police and confessed. The police found Policeton dead in the hallway of his flat. The investigators called the death a determined and sustained attack. Sarah Sands was charged with murder. She was jailed for 10 months until she went to trial in June 2015. During the trial, it was revealed that Michael Policeton was not the man's real name. He had changed his name. He was Robin Mould, and he had a disturbing criminal record. Between 1970 and 1991, he racked up 24 convictions for sexual offenses. This included charges for indecent assaults on boys under 14 and 16. He received jail sentences between 9 months and 6 years. Sarah Sands was ultimately found not guilty of murder, but she was found guilty of manslaughter by reason of loss of control. She was sentenced to 3.5 years in prison. Including time served, she could have been released after 11 months. The case was referred to the Court of Appeals by the Attorney General because he thought the sentence was unduly lenient. The court agreed and more than doubled Sarah's sentence to 7.5 years. She ended up serving nearly 4 years in prison and was released in August 2018. In November 2022, Sarah and her 3 sons were interviewed by the BBC. Alfie and Reese were 19 and Bradley was 20. Sarah said she was remorseful for killing Policeton. She said, "I bring life into the world. It never occurred to me that I would be guilty of taking life out of the world." About the killing, Alfie said, "It did make us feel safer. It didn't slow down the nightmares." The boys initially regretted telling their mother about the abuse. Bradley said if we had kept our mouths shut, we would have had our mom, and we would have been going shopping, going to the cinema, doing what a normal 12-year-old would do. However, they know it's important for victims to come forward. Reese said it's going to be hard, but it does get better. Alfie added, "You should always come forward. It's better to talk. If you don't, it's just going to get worse." Thank you so much for watching today's video. Please don't forget to check out our new channel, Paranormally Listed. There's a link on the screen now, and there's a link in the description box below this video. Well, that's all for today. Thanks again for watching.